I began in September of 2007 designing the Obama campaign. Essentially, that meant designing everything. But we didn't really have any precedence for this. There had never really been an internal design team in a political campaign. We were very uncertain how it would work. But with an amazing squadron, we were really able to get things done. To talk about my team briefly, there is a bit of magic behind everything. This is Click-Through, the pink unicorn. His name's Click-Through because the email team obviously named him. He went to battle for us. He worked really late nights. His little cohort behind him is conversion rate. We dressed him up in battle guard the night before the election. So really, what I really want to talk about is there were a lot of late nights. The campaign was long and hard. We spent a lot of time creating, these designs using the traditional tools that everyone uses. But the question is, how do you get a website that kind of uses every bad trick in the book and has typography all over the place and different shades of blue? How do you get it to be somewhat controlled? How do you get it to have color control and consistent typography? How do you get it to break the mold and allow it to scroll? It was very important to us that we start creating certain processes. And I want to kind of briefly describe how the team was going to be structured. Initially, John Slavic, who was the art director, and I was the design director, respectively. We still don't really know what the difference between those two titles are. But one was going to focus on web, and one was going to focus on print. And obviously, that doesn't really work. The web has to be integrated with print as much as possible in order for a campaign to be integrated and to truly sync up. The message that you get in the mail has to look exactly like the message that you see online. It's incredibly important. Anybody in branding knows this, but in politics in the past, there had always been so many hands that were working on it that it never truly came together. John and I had to kind of invent a process here. Obviously, in a political campaign, we were hired to get things done. And those things that we had to get done were like email graphics and all these things. And we had to do it now. There was no process. There wasn't the 2 weeks of storyboarding and conceptualizing, what are we going to do for this print piece? I don't know, maybe we should do this. That didn't happen. We didn't get to, create do user research or create brand standards or mock up site designs in advance. It was very on the fly. It was very on the cuff. We like to say that this actually came out when I was being interviewed. Michael Slaby and Joe Rosbars were sitting down and talking about what we were about to do together. And he said, we're truly building an airplane in flight. You're going to be in mid-flight, and you're going to need to fix the wing with duct tape and polish it later. That's how it's going to be. We're going to be on the fly. We're going to be doing this as fast as frickin' possible. So understand that perfection goes out the window. John and I initially had to start creating kind of missions, ideas that we could focus on, and one of them was to deliver really clear and concise messaging focused on we rather than he. We wanted to make sure that no matter in what form of communications we were doing, that really was the embodiment of the campaign. And we wanted to make sure that we were as clear and concise in that messaging as possible. So we're creating these kind of mission statements. The other one was we wanted to make sure that we keep the message of hope while dismantling the notion of being aloof. We knew that Barack Obama was a pretty amazing, politician. And when shit like this happens, where that's actually at the Hark and Steak Fry, the end of the rainbow is where the politics are happening. When stuff like that is going on left and right, there's that moment of magic, right? And that's happening all the time. And it was pretty incredible. So we had to start dismantling that notion. And the way that we were able to really do that is by showing things visually, by showing hope visually, getting rid of that word. We wanted to pull from imagery of the past to communicate the historic atmosphere of the campaign. And so this is a shot of a linotype specimen book, and this is the More Perfect Union speech in Philadelphia that I typeset. And you can see kind of similarities between the two. So we were constantly using the archives that are out on the web and available to be able to influence our designs. So instead of saying, hey, this is a historic campaign, we were able to do it by designing it, doing it visually. We knew an Achilles heel early on was going to be that Barack was a junior senator, and we knew that experience was going to be a problem. But one thing that design can solve through consistency is it can establish a certain sense of balance. And it can also really give the visual impression that he's incredibly experienced. We also thought it was incredibly important not only to have missions, but also to create buckets. I think buckets are, I always have heard them as buckets, but it's like these kind of ideas, these thoughts that you throw into certain areas. And so we created these brand groups. One was campaign, instant vintage, timeless, and then we had to create a supporters brand. So let's walk through those. The campaign brand is this really blue, very the Obama blue, gradient, Web 2.0, wet floor look. The campaign that you guys probably saw the most of, right? The instant vintage is this more retro feel, pulling from imagery of the past again, but being able to also convey a certain emotive quality that this is a really historic time. And the timeless, the he's already president kind of feel, and that was incredibly important and incredibly important, and we rarely got to use it because obviously, we realized when we called it the Great Seal debacle occurred, we designed a kind of faux presidential seal. Advance came over to us, this was right when we were getting into the general election, and they're like, can you guys design like a presidential seal with the Obama logo? It would be awesome. And so this is one of those cases where, that idea is not very good, and we shouldn't execute this. But it's sometimes hard to tell people, no, it's really hard, especially in the campaign. We were very much people that wanted to make any idea happen and happen as quickly as possible. And then the supporters brand, which is summed up with this image of the giant button Obama head. So we did it, we were able to create these buckets and these missions, and we were able to follow through on these missions. But the truth is that everything was kind of smoke and mirrors. And every startup, every organization has to realize that, that's just the way it is. And as organized as you think everything is, this is at a moment, yeah, we had clenched a Democratic nomination, but for web developers in the audience, we didn't have an SVN repository. We were developing live, and there are certain times that your instant message window gets mixed up with your TextMate window, and when you're developing on a site, you might say something like, yeah, I'm on it, and then hit tab over, and somebody comes running over in 5 minutes, like, why does it say on it under make a difference? I was nicknamed on it for like the rest of the campaign. So we were truly doing it live, as Bill O'Reilly said, right? Like, I think we shouted that too almost every day. But there is kind of, as much as it is a mess, you realize, okay, we have this demand. We need to get something done. We need to have an SVN repository. So we see this problem and we say we need to solve it. And this is actually, it was great that Scott has not seen any of these images, but I used a Behance action pad. I bought one really early on, probably because I saw it on Cool Hunting, and it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to buy these and use them during the campaign because I have no idea how to keep control of all these tasks that I'm being handed. So here's the back sketch of, this is how our server's set up, and we're going to do this, and then it goes out to www, and I'm trying to explain it to somebody in 4 seconds. So triage is another really important thing, and I think that this is important to understand. People are going to come up to you all the time if you're creative and give you a ton of really cool ideas that they think are awesome. And it's incredibly important to play, just like a doctor would, a bit of triage when stuff's coming in. When it's flowing in, you have to start to say, okay, what can I do and what can't I do? This downloads page was so essential to our triage because what we were able to do is create a page where people could download any asset that they wanted to that we created for the campaign. And they could create their own stuff. I didn't want to design a t-shirt for every single organization known to man, and I didn't want to have to create flyers for every single little party that was going on. But by just simply putting all of these assets online and being transparent, what we were able to do is activate and allow people to participate in the political process. And that was essentially what we were really trying to do with this page. And so part of triage was saying, okay, I want to make sure that these people can do what they want because, even if I think their idea is not good, it doesn't matter. Or if I don't think I have time to do it, it doesn't matter. It's all about getting them to be involved in the process and to participate in the process. So Vote for Change is one of these examples of, an idea that somebody's like, Barack's original idea was if we get people more involved in the process, then it opens up politics for the people. And so it was incredibly important that Vote for Change, the initial idea was pitched to me by Chris Hughes, who said, we're going to build kind of a vote poke application. I'd like for you to take a stab at coming up with some ideas. Okay, No problem. Wow. If anybody has taken a look at how you register to vote, in every single state it's different, in every county it's different. It's a complicated process. And so 20 minutes before the meeting, I came up with this idea. I'm like, this should be totally conversational, and I'm Simple Scott, so I figured let's just call it Simple Vote, and we're gonna just simplify the process. There are way too many questions in voter registration. Let's just make it easy for people, and let's do it in plain English. Let's ask people, what's your email address? What's your name? When's your birthday? These simple questions will make the process go a lot easier. The other thing it does is not a long form. Everyone has these long forms in After that, we ask you for a password, and then after that, you get logged in right away. And you can just start calling people in like 3 steps. We have to make things incredibly simple so that way people can be a part of this process as quickly and easily as possible. You know, we had to make a full width for important events like Joe Biden being announced. We wanted to make sure that we were able to stream in all of the events online. All these things were just little ideas that required evolution and process in order to make them actually happen. And you see this kind of, you see this site and then you see this site and you're like, yeah, one's obviously better, but it wasn't like it happened overnight. We didn't do a push one day and all of a sudden, bam, everything changed. This was a constant development over a year and a half. And I have 30 minutes. I'll go in and ding around in the CSS. I had no control over any of this markup. I don't know how many web people are in the room, so sorry if I'm speaking a foreign language. But I just had to kind of constantly go back and realize that this is an evolution. This is going to take time. And even though we were running a race to a finish line, it was important to understand that we understood that everything was going to evolve. Fight the smears. That's done. Sweet. Move on to MySpace. Oh, God. Move on to YouTube. Move on to Teased by the People. Thanks, Threadless. So we were able to accomplish a lot in a year and a half. And looking back on it, it's pretty remarkable that I've kept all my hair and that only a few have turned gray. That's nice. But I want to just reflect for a moment on one key idea, and that is that if you have an idea or if you are passionate about that idea, you can make anything happen through just understanding a couple really basic principles. And that is, 1, surround yourself around the people that motivate you and push you, and 2, just simply write things down. Writing them down makes you remember them, and it's very crucial. And something that I had a little discussion about last night. Writing them down in a notebook actually almost allows you to remember it in some spiritual way. You don't forget it. But by all of these kind of like online services or the iPhone application that allows you to put in all your to-do items, I always forget them. And I'm always like, how did I forget that? Well, I have it in my computer. But there's something to actually writing down what you have to do that's incredibly important. And I just wanted to share how, something as large and grand as a presidential campaign was done simply by checking off to-dos. Thanks.